Hi guys, welcome back to what seems to be too long since I've done my last video. Well, it has been actually, really, hasn't it? It's probably been about 2, maybe 3 months, maybe 2 months probably. Well, today you join me down at Donitz by St. Donitz College. Well, like, obviously, as you can probably last remember, my last video was on the cod on Lantwick Cliffs, which is only just by, it's actually visible from where we were, which I'll show you later. And that was codfish on my last video, and now we're well into the summer, fishing for smooth hounds. I have actually been out a little bit since my last video, but not as much as normal because work has been too busy. It's just, I've had to focus in on that. Being self-employed, it's all on myself, all my work, so I can't really take too much time off when things are busy, but I get out when I can. But I thought I'd get out today since the weather's nice, and well, it's been nice for a little while now. A couple of weeks, it's been really calm, settled weather. Not really the best for fishing, mind. It has been very quiet recently. Well, it's that settled at the minute. There's quite a few mackerel coming out around here, around the south coast. Like off Aberthaw yesterday, outboard account, there's quite a few mackerel caught on the boats in Aberthaw Bay, which is quite crazy, really. I've heard of a few off Barry as well. So I thought I'd come down here, have it go on the smooth hounds over low water. It's now 2 hours before low, so we'll give it a good go anyway and see what we can pull out. I'm not sure if you can see there, but got a bite. It's our first cast as well. Good sign. I wouldn't say he's a hound though. Whatever it is, seems like it's on there. Let's go and see what it is. And it is rough ground down here, so when you do get a fish on, make sure you get it in as sort of quick as you can without it snagging you up. Something on there. It's got my lead stuck. So, probably just a dogfish, but you never know. It's quite an erratic bite really for a dog, but we'll soon see. My lead is up now anyway. I wouldn't say it's a dog because it's kiting around a fair bit. And this is a hound that's just woken up. Which, yeah, I would say it is actually. It's very big though. Yeah, it's a hound. God, it was the most delicate ever bite for a hound. Whoa, it's a lively one. But there we go. That didn't take long at all. By the bite, I would have probably said that was a strap or something. It was a little erratic bite. There we go, that didn't take long at all. Let's get that hook out without whipping me. Yeah, the good thing with those circles, they do go in and they won't come out. And 9 times out of 10, if you do hook one, they ain't coming off. There you go. There we are. First fish of the session on our first cast. Not bad. Nice. Yeah, he's a starry, very faint, the spots on it, but starry smooth on. hopefully there's many more to come. Nice to see a couple of different species as well, but happy days. Right, well, I'll get that rod back out there. I was only out there for about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, not long, and this thing jumped on it. So we'll get it back now and see if we can find a bigger one. That's probably about, I don't know, about £6 I'd say. Right, let's get him back. I'm just going to I brought a second rod with me. I typically, when on a hound fish, I only use one rod because you'll end up losing a lot of leads, because obviously it's rough ground down here. And when they're thick on the ground, a lot of time you struggle to keep up with two rods. With two rods purely on the hounds. So I thought I'd bring a second rod and have a go for a bit of mixed fishing. I'll check out a little 3-8 clip down with little small circle ducks and pop-ups. See what I can pull out. Because if I've had a bite on this one, little rattly bites. I was in Halton Road angling the other day, picking up some bait, and I was talking to Daniel Crump, the owner, and we were saying how typically around this sort of time of year, if I say that a little bit later actually normally, but whenever we get settled weather like this, you do often see a few triggerfish. There seems to be more and more every year. So, and this is a tidy Mark IV actually. Good mixed ground. Fairly clear the water as well today. When I was putting that hound back then, it was I was quite shocked how clear it was. I'm just fishing just small hooks. I don't know if you can pick it up that far, but just small hooks. I think they're size 1 circles or size 1/0s. Just small pink pop-ups. And it's not, the pop-ups aren't to get the bait completely off the bottom, because it's surprising how small of a bait you'll need for a pop-up that size to actually shoot it right the way up. But it's more so to a bit of colour, like an attractant, and also as the, like, obviously a bit of the swell and stuff like that, it's surprising how much it'll move the bait more than your bait being hard on the bottom. And as the swell lifts your bait up, and fish like a triggerfish, for instance, they're moving about a lot and they feed off the bottom as well sometimes. So it just catches their eye a bit, I think, if that makes sense. I think it just makes it a little bit more natural in the water. Because I remember being down Oxwich on my rib, and I was just off the point in the quite rough ground, having a look around on the fish finder, because when I was the first time down there, and I seen a triggerfish right on the surface, and it was like 20, I don't know, like 25 foot of water, something like that. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a little sunfish at first when I'd seen it, and I went up to it and it was a trigger, which is quite unusual to see him off the surface anyway. Well, I'd never seen it before, unless it's a normal thing you see sometimes. Don't know if it'll go anyway. We'll see what you can find. So I remember last year as well, I'm sure it was last summer, we did have settled weather like this, and there was someone fished just the left-hand side of land to it, a mark called Old Farts, where it's not really the best mark going, but it's a good sort of all-round mark where you can just go down and fish through hookers and get a bit of a mixed bag of bits and pieces. And someone went down there and they had a bream, and then their little black bream, and I'm sure they had a red mullet as well, which is pretty cool to see around here. And I think in the summer they are here, it's just they do need a lot more clear water to actually feed properly. If you look, like, for instance, down in Chesil way, there's a lot of it down there, and a lot of people say, especially with the place fishing down there, if it's murky you won't catch them. And chances are they're still there, but they're just maybe not feeding as much with the murky water. So I'll give it a go anyway. I'm not going to fish it too far out, because the last thing I want is to cast this out there and have a hound on it and just trash my rig up. So I'm only going to flick it out there. The tide's eased a little bit since I've got here, so shouldn't be too bad. Flick it out now and see if we can pull any different species out. If any of you are friends with me on Facebook or follow my Instagram page, you'd see that I've got a big saltwater tank, like local saltwater tank, local marine. and I'm going to have a day on my rib down Swansea, I think. I'm going to go for a trigger fish to try and get a trigger fish for the fish tank. Because at the minute, it's, well, the tank itself is 7 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot. And it's just shy of 1,800 litres off the top of my head, around about that. And at the minute I've got a nice Ballon wrasse in there, probably coming on to about £2, I'd say. Oh, probably is £2, maybe a bit over, it's quite a chunky fish. Got mullet in there, bass, turbot, some rockling, congers, bit of all sorts really. So a trigger fish will look amazing in there, I reckon. Watching them feed is really cool as well. Right, we'll get this rig out there now and see what we can pull out. Give you a quick view of it, if you can see the small circle looks. You don't need the clip down, so I'm only fishing in close, but it's just what I had. If I was to come here purposely doing this sort of fish and I'd only have a flapper, it's not worth spending your time making clip downs if you're fishing in close. And on the rough, if you're fishing in close, especially on the rough, you're going to lose a bit of gear as well. So we'll get out there now and see what we can pull out. Well, that was a hectic couple, well, 10 minutes or so. I missed a good bite on my little hooks on my left-hand rod there. And as I reeled it in to change the bait back over, my rod with a crab for a hound went, had a good bite, and then had another hound, second one. So unfortunately I didn't get to video this one coming in. And I literally had the rig baited up on the stand, cast that out there, put the rod down, and literally straight away went off again. I've had these fish in a pour bind, so they're not out in the sun. And I've had another one. So that's literally 2 in the space of probably about 10 minutes or so. Not bad. There's one starry smooth hound and one common. If you can see that. If you can pick it up, as you're probably looking at the right one, as you're looking at the screen, the right one's got spots on its backs, and the left one hasn't. If you can pick that up anyway. Well, there's the one, you can see the spots there, and then if I put that one down, that one hasn't along the back. Oh, they are different fish, different species of fish anyway. Not obviously they're both smooth hounds, but they're different by all accounts. They are a different strain of smooth hound, if that makes sense. But we'll get these back now. Although I've had them in a pool, they still don't want to keep them out for too long. Because obviously with the sun going on these pools for a couple of hours, it's probably the oxygen levels dropping them. It's nice to keep them in a pool for a few minutes after you catch them to let them revive, and then send them on their way. I think I had a bite then. I don't know if you've seen that. My left one, I think it was. Let's tighten that up. Yeah, I'll get these hounds back now and then come back to you hopefully with another. Well, I'll try and get another video reeling one in next if I can get the camera on quick enough, because when you get one on, you don't want to leave it too long on there because they'll take your lines around the rocks and stuff and cut you off or wreck your line. So I'll be as quick as I can anyway. I'll have my camera set up on the next one and hopefully bring you back with some more fish. Oh. Well, as you've just seen, I had a cracking run off yet another smooth hound, but I must have not pressed the mic button, the on button on the mic hard enough, because they didn't turn on. I just watched the clip back then before I put the hound back, and I couldn't hear myself talking, so I thought I'd give you a quick look at the fish. A slightly better one, probably not that far off £10 actually. Probably about 9, I'd imagine. It's a nice chunky one, this. Give a good run, as you could probably, well, as you could definitely hear. Unfortunately though, I think it was just before, just after, not sure if I've said already, but I had my small lugs out there, and I had a cracking run on that again. And it cut me off though, because I'm only, as you can imagine, only fishing like 25-pound fluoro hook links. It's going to cut you off on the rough ground. I thought a nice fish as well, but I'll probably leave the little hooks for now and just stick to the hounds for a bit, see how we go. And maybe have a move around and back into the bay in front of the college, have a little scratch in there, see if you can find any different species. We've had a few hounds now. It'd be nice to end the session on something else, a few other species. So, right, well, I'll get it back anyway, and I'll get you back in a bit. I'll show you the rigs and baits and all that sort of thing next. Well, I've just decided to have a little move. I'm going to go up into the bay, try some small hooks, see if there's other, like I said, see if there's a few bits and pieces in there, because at the minute now the tide is horrendous out there. And although you still probably will get the hounds, I don't really think you're going to get as many now. I've only ever fished down here a couple of times, and both times I did fish down here was for the hounds, and I remember it did go quiet on the flood. I got the ratchet set quite tight now, and it's surprising how strong that tide is. So I'll get a couple of rigs out ready, baited up, and then we're gonna have a move. But one thing I did want to say is fishing in the summer. With crab, I do it in the winter as well, even though it's freezing, just saves wasting them. Most of my crab, I've got frozen. And what is really important, I find, because with my crab, like I was saying earlier on, I got a saltwater tank. So I buy crab, like live crab, and then I put them in the tank in basically like in baskets, little plastic baskets. There, let's tighten that up. In little plastic baskets basically, and then until the crabs pop. And if you don't know what I mean when I say pop, I mean because obviously they're going to come out of the shell. Once that shell completely sort of breaks away from the crab is as big as it will be, and they are the best then for bait. You get them more out of the crab then when they're bigger, obviously. And what I do, I freeze them down singly. I cut the gills out, give them a little rinse under fresh water, dry them off with a rag, and then wrap them individually in cling film, freeze down. And what I do, which is really important, is take a little flask, a little cooler, and I basically in there then, like at this one I could fit about just over a dozen crab, I think it is. You wrap them up individually like that, and keep them in there, because in the heat, they'll spoil really, they'll defrost, go all warm and mushy, and it's surprising how little fish you'll catch if they're bad crab, because the quality of bait is everything really. Like I'd never freeze crab if they've been defrosted and they're slightly soft. And then what I also do then, I bring an almost cooler box, and I basically have a couple ice packs in there, and then every now and then when I'm running low on the defrosted crab, I'll take a few out the cooler, the little cooler pack thing. I'll leave them out so they're soft enough to obviously put on your hooks, and then I put them back in there and to cool them back down slightly. And the same again with even when you're ray fishing with your sand eels. They're perfect for the sand. You can fit. I'll open the sand eel up at home, cut the pack open. Again, you can put the pack in the recycling, which helps again. And then the sand eels drop in there and keep them cold, because again, sand eels when they're defrosted and they've been in the sun, and you know when you're putting them on, the bellies are popping and stuff, then they're not as good for bait. So that is a massive helper in this heat, because it is, I think it's in the 20s today. It's surprising how hot it is. And keeping your bait in good condition is key to everything. So what I'll do now, I'm going to bait up this little 3-hook rig and make a move. Because it's tight. Oh, I think that's a fish on there. Move that camera on. I've sprung right up then. Yeah, that's a fish. Move that in a better position. Right. Going slack anyway. That's it. There's a fish on there with a hound, I think it's a hound. Not really fighting at all. You can see on my line there, if you can pick that up, all the weed up there, look. There's my leader. There's a baby one. Well, there's number 6. What I'll do though, we'll get it back now quickly. There's a little baby one there. And we're gonna have a move anyway, so quickly get him back now. And then I'll bring you back once we've moved then. I'm just gonna quickly bait a little 3-egg rig up and make a move. And I'll bring you back in 5 when I set up over there. I'll catch you in a minute. Well, we've moved now into a new spot. I've just put a pulley rig out there and I've already had the bite on it as I'm baiting up my 3-hooker. I definitely wouldn't say it was a hound because it was quite a typical sort of bouncy doggy bite. If you're not what I mean by that, a bouncy doggy bite. It was a typical dog. But in all fairness, the first hound I had this morning, that gave such a small little bite. I was quite surprised it was a hound. But there's definitely fish on there though. Just baiting up some little crab and worm baits. I do like scratching over the rough because it's surprising what you'll pull out. Like you can go like, say for instance, around barrier, say fryers for instance, or the nap. You can fish 3-hookers out there with bits of little fish baits or worm baits. There's only so much different fish you're going to catch other than dogs, rays and probably straps. But over the rough you've got a much better chance. Obviously you're fishing over a reef technically, so got a much better chance of mixed species. But a lot of people don't like fishing over the rough with small hooks. It's fair enough, why would you waste gear fishing for small stuff, but it's a nice change sometimes. The only thing though, when you do hook a big fish, you do tend to lose them. Fishing the lighter hook links. I fish fairly close. There's no tide at all because that rod there with a pulley, that's all, I put that out further, and there's no tide there at all. So hopefully there's a few smaller stuff about. I think it's about an hour into the flood now, so I'll probably give it an hour or so here and call it quits then, see how it goes. because it is a fairly decent mark over high. I'll turn the camera around in a bit once this rod's out, and I'll show you the high water mark. You basically fish above the slipway on a big flat concrete ledge. You've got to be careful on the big tides. It's better on the bigger tide because there's more water there in front of you. But the only thing you've got to be careful with the weather, just because the swells, you know, like it's a sloping ledge sloping to the water. And I've heard the odd stories of people getting their gear washed in. But through the summer, you're fairly safe, I suppose. There's fish quite a lot through the winter for the codling. So, there's another mark again up on the cliffs before you come down onto the slipway. That can be a good mark, but it's one of those marks where if you hook a big fish, it's impossible to land. There's loads of pouting you get off there, and obviously with pouting you get the congers to follow. And you hear a lot of time people hooking big congers up there, and you just physically cannot get to them. And it's not like, for instance, something like Fontegary over high on the cliff there, you can walk your fish around if there's two of you to land it down on the beach. But by there, it's impossible because you're in between hedges and there's a little bit of a forest on your right hand side, and on your left there's just thick hedges and there's no way to get down anyway. So let's get this out there now, and hopefully come back with some fish. Now it seems to have stopped going now. It was going a fair bit before I turned the camera on. As soon as I cast it out there, it was on the stand for a couple of minutes and then started giving bites. There might be something sat on it. But I'll cast this rod out now, these small hooks, and then I'll give it 5 if it hasn't gone. Then I'll reel it in and check it. I'll bring you back if there's something on it. Well, seeing as the fishing's gone a bit quiet, I thought I'd give you a little view of the area. So basically, you can just see at the top there the beach. There's a slipway, and that's basically where the college is. In behind that is all the college grounds, and there's a big ledge. You'll probably be able to see it. There's a few people sat on the slipway there, and then above them is basically a big flat concrete plateau, so you can just fish off that over high. And a few spots just to the right hand side of it up on the cliff. But like I said, it's not a really kind of mark I go to fishing big, because there's just no way you can get the fish up. So in the day it's not worth hooking fish to just reel them in and cut the line sort of thing. And I'll try to keep the camera steady as I can, but as you look down then there's land to it a bit further down the coast. You might be able to pick it up. There's basically, you can see some fields that look slightly yellowy compared to the rest of the cliffs. And just to the right hand side of them, as the cliff slopes down, there's land to it, beach. And then on the left hand side up on the cliffs is where you fish, which is where I done my last video for the cod. And this is where I am now. My right hand rod's got a bite on it currently, so fingers crossed there'll be something on that. So I think I'll probably make it to my last cast now. I put small hooks on both of them, so. And then basically earlier on, if I just shoot right round the other side, basically beyond the ledges that you can see that come up, it's where I fished earlier on. So give it a little bit longer here, and hopefully pull something out. So be getting a few little bites, but it must be tiny little eels or little baby rockling and stuff, playing with the baits. I'll see if I have a fish on these casts now. I'll probably give it one more and go from there and see what happens, and probably shoot off. I'll certainly head off to move for a different species. It's only a little one, with a little corcoran wrasse. Wicked colours on him. My first ever wrasse from around here anyway. That's the thing when you're fishing over the rough ground, especially now when the water goes slightly clear. Surprising what's around. Hopefully you can pick the colours up on that. Amazing blues and greens and reds, especially in that dorsal fin. Amazing colours. Now these things don't grow very big, they caught from last. Identical sort of body to a ballan, but they're typically always colourful like that. Whereas a ballan, they grow bigger, and obviously sometimes you get them brown, red, green, all different colours, but these tend to be quite a standard stamp of colour and smaller. So I'm quickly getting back now. I thought I'd have one more cast. See as I had that, and might be another one out there. And I thought I'd make that my last cast now. One last little look, and checking back down. I've been getting a few bites on my last cast now, on the little hooks. So we'll give it a check. Quite aggressive little bites like I had off that wrasse. So fingers crossed, that'll be another one. Let's have a look. Might be something on there. Yeah, it feels like something. Whatever it was, felt like it just come off actually. Yeah, oh well. There's something little on there though. There's something little on there though. Might be an eel. The bottom hook's gone. And my top bait's a bit mashed up as well. Fairly rough as well, so it might be in a little strap conger. Bit me off. Because when you're fishing with a rough, it's important to, especially if you're catching a few fish, to change your rigs over every now and then. Because dragging along the rocks, and even fish like the smooth hounds, it's surprising how rough their skin is. And it does wreck your hook links and your backbone, and you run the risk of losing a decent fish if you hook one. So, with that said, that is me done for another session. But I'll try my best to get out a bit more often. I might try and take a little bit of time off of work like over the next couple of months now. Because gets it stressful if you don't take a bit of time off for yourself, innit? Like even on weekends, I've been doing a little bit of fishing down Barry Docks for the mullet and bass, but haven't been fit as much as I used to. So take a bit of time out, I think, have a bit of a fish, hopefully get some nice videos to put together for you guys. There's a few boats out there now. I think they're drifting around looking for mackerel. Like I said earlier on, there's a few mackerel about. Because I think they've anchored up now, but they were drifting just then for a little while. They probably have shoal and mackerel out there maybe. But anyway, I'll pack up this last little rig, get my gear together and walk back to the car. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.